In this video, we'll take a look at the therapeutic process itself. From this intake questionnaire that we'll be asking you to fill out later, we'll have all the information we need about your circumstances. We start with the questionnaire and process that information through two dynamic sets of calculations in two software-driven technologies. They're called ProgressiveFit and TheraFit. Both software-driven programs are used in Vanguard and Correlate's preclinical services. ProgressiveFit calculates the progressive amplification that you will need to experience as your therapeutics are provided. These levels of amplification are then linked to what TheraFit has calculated. When the Vanguard subscriber finishes the first stage of therapeutics, the software will produce a simulated amplification profile so that the individual can determine how much difference amplification will make at that stage of hearing loss. The Correlate's patient's hearing instruments will be programmed according to ProgressiveFit's medically based amplification protocol. The combination of these two functions is what makes Neurova unique, personalized, and dynamic. The odds of someone else having the identical neural workout routine taped to their fridge are 1 in 200,000. That's how sophisticated this dual technology system is for you. And in every single daily session, our system recalculates what you need, stores your responses, and programs different levels of difficulty of the exercises you need. This is why you have to wait about 2 minutes between the time you log in and when you can start your therapy. During your original language education and training, you started by mastering simple words and simple concepts. When you mastered them, your teachers introduced the next level of difficulty. That way, your brain could expand your memory and functional capabilities in a logical way. That's how Neurova does it. Your therapeutics start out as simple conditional training, which specifically matches the words and frequencies necessary to let the brain rebuild itself. Once you have mastered each level, you're ready for the next one, but it never goes as fast as you want it to. In one way, this is just like physical training. Neural reconstruction is slow, deliberate, and the most complex thing you can imagine. If you're not patient, you will fail. What do you think Rocky would have said if James had told him that the race for the charity wasn't in 4 months, but it was next week? Rocky would have laughed, put his hand on James's shoulder, and said, "Your expectations aren't realistic, buddy. Unrealistic expectations lead to failure in therapy." That's something you need to deal with right now, before you get started. You're going to take at least 90 sessions of required daily exercise and many more highly recommended shorter exercises during that time. If your circumstances require it, it's possible that you could need 6 months of daily sessions to get the highest possible level of comprehension. If you do not comply with the requirements of your sessions, you will fail. To achieve the success you're after, there are some important steps to follow. You will repeat 50 tailored words in 3 groups: easy, challenging, and hard. We know the ones you will hear very clearly, the ones you will hear fairly clearly, and the ones that are going to be tough for you to hear. Over time, the percentages of those words will change. Each word will cause hundreds of thousands of chemical reactions in the brain. In the early stages of your therapy, the brain does not have all of the necessary connections between the words. So you'll miss some. That's not a problem. What's happening is that the repetitions of these frequencies will cause the brain to do something with those stimulations. Our system captures several of the words that you will have missed. It stores them and makes them available for the next day. When you do this, you'll take a few seconds and say them out loud to yourself several times. When you take this mini therapeutic exercise, your brain is forced to deal with the words in well understood ways. Can you imagine what would happen if the brain's special cells could talk? Here comes that word faith again. Wow, it just came through 10 times. It's getting blocked and can't get through. Go find some calcium. These nerves are running low down there. Hey, oligo, grab some fat, would you? I need to wrap this nerve again. It lost its insulation last year, but it's back in action now. Hey, RNA, get some amino acids down here. I've got to get those synapses rebuilt. In the first 2 weeks, your improvement of simple words in quiet will begin to improve on a conscious level. This means that you might have to think for a second before you repeat the word, but your scores will improve. Now that's a first step. Your conscious or deliberate improvements do not happen daily. You reach a breakthrough point at each level. That will occur when you don't have to think about the word. You will recognize it as quickly as it's spoken. The ones you still have to think about are the ones which require more neural rebuilding, or more amplification, or both. From an education perspective, you were trained to understand sounds and language in 2 basic ways. First, you learned what a simple sound and combinations of sounds mean. This is the primary level of understanding language. From the neuroscientific perspective, your educational process forced the brain to create a language processing system that integrated every concept you learned in school and all of the words and the frequencies that make up those words into a language processing machine. Our term for that is primary linguistic schema, or PLS. For this level to work properly, you must have the ability to receive the whole range of sounds. This is called the full dynamic range of sound. From another educational perspective, once you mastered spelling and grammar, you had to figure out what those sounds meant when parts of the sounds that made up the words were missing or were drowned out by noise. Humans are normally very good at this. From a neuroscientific and cognitive perspective, this educational process forced the brain to create an entirely different processing system, one that is based on figuring out which sounds are missing from what we are hearing, and then identifying the most likely words that are being said. Our term for that is Ambiguity Resolution Schema, or ARS. When you begin to experience hearing loss, the amount of missing and incomplete information coming to the brain significantly slows down the primary language processing system. When that occurs, the ARS is used more and more until it becomes habitual. That's right, we develop habits in the brain. And when that happens, we begin to anticipate those places where we know we'll have a tough time understanding, and we will eventually no longer rely on our primary language processing machine. Even after a person gets hearing aids, this dual information processing system does not revert to the original order. Why not? It's partly because of the amplification formula that is used by audiologists and hearing aid specialists. Remember, the formula used on everyone is about half of the lost sound. That amount leaves so much more sound out of your reach. There's still too much missing for you to easily re-establish the order of these 2 systems in your brain. Neurova helps the patient reorient these processing dynamics. When you have passed the time period when your neural network has had a chance to repair and rebuild connections, you will have the opportunity to take advantage of that process. The way that you get faster and faster is by taking more and more difficult exercises, but all rebuilding has to have the chance to take place before this step will be most valuable. The brain will recognize the new demands placed on your information processing systems, and will take further steps to build up the amino acids, energy compounds, proteins, enzymes, neurotransmitters, and other molecules that will be necessary to process sounds at faster speeds. At some point, which only you can determine, you will realize that you have improved through several levels, from slow and deliberate recognition to faster and faster levels. You will break through to effortless understanding at each level. When you've done so, you will notice it in your everyday life. So, when you get to the point that you're happy, more relaxed, and less stressed with your renewed understanding of conversations, that will be the time for you to relax your therapy. There may be no end to the value of continuing your exercises. Only you will be able to tell. Now is the time to begin your journey to better hearing, healing, and more improved understanding.